Hey class, Prof. JC here. This week we are talking about this idea of persuasion. You may be thinking, what in the world is persuasion? This idea of persuading, what does that have to do with, what does that have to do with leading with service? Well, here's the deal, and I've tried to connect this my own self. We've talked about this before, the importance of you leading with the mindset of service. It's the only way to success. It's the only way that makes sense to move towards success. So for instance, if you're serving the marketplace, you're consistently asking, what does the marketplace need right now? Okay. And then you go out and you figure out what the marketplace needs and you serve the marketplace in that way. Businesses that fail, not always. Okay, there are people who are able to, they get lucky enough and they do something that they want and then they put it out to the marketplace. And somehow, I think of artists. I was listening to an interview, and I think I talked about this a little bit last week. I was listening to an interview with the lead singer of Metallica, James Hetfield. And I'll be honest, I know that band you would think is a group of, I don't know whatever judgments you have on them. I had some judgments about them, and then I've started listening to their interviews. These are really solid gentlemen, really good gentlemen. Anyway, the lead singer of James Hetfield talked about with Metallica, he still says this to this day, we make what we want, and we're lucky enough that there's thousands, millions of people around the world. I think they've sold like 63 million records. So there's been 63 million people around the world that have decided that they like what they put out. Okay. But not everybody's that lucky. Typically what you have to do is go out to the marketplace, see what the need is, and you fill the need. This is being of service. Now I'll tell you, going back to Metallica, one thing I have heard them say is that they believe their job is to use their music. Okay. Now I'm not saying like it or not. Okay. I'm not, it's personal preference. And I'm not even sure if I like a lot of their music. The more I study them, from a leadership perspective, a business perspective, they're very, I think they're very savvy gentlemen, and I think they're they're well-spoken and they think well, and I think their motives are right for why they're doing what they do. Now, one of the things that they talked about in one of the videos is being of service. They actually use that term, being of service, using their gifts, which are singing, playing the guitar, playing bass, playing drums, whatever, using their gifts, creating music, creating good songs, and being of service to the world. I think that's phenomenal. That's the mindset. Okay. Now, here's the deal. Most people don't think this way. If you're going to build a business, you need to have a lot of people who are working for you, or however many people you have, whether it's a small business or a large business. You need to have 90% of those people, hopefully 100% of those people who are coming to the same mindset that you have, that they are of service, so that they're thinking about what's best for the marketplace. And every day when they show up, I don't care if you're a gas station attendant, I don't care if you're a teacher, I don't care if you're a pastor, I don't care if you're, if you're changing brakes. That's really important. Today I was on the call. I got to get some work done with my vehicle, and I was on the call with the guy who runs probably one of the highest rated auto body shops here in San Diego. They're family run, and I could tell, you go to Yelp, they have like 283 reviews, and it's all 5-star, 4-star, 5-star, whatever the highest rating is on there. And I got to talk to the owner today, and it's no wonder why they're amazing. The dude was incredible. I mean, it was just, I wanted to start a podcast with him and just start talking about leadership. I mean, you could tell he's a great human being. He's of service to the world, and that's what he's doing. And the reviews show it, right? That's their mindset. And I got to see today why this guy is so successful at what he does, why his family's been so, successful. And I think I'll figure out the name, and I want to say the Allman Brothers, but I feel like that's a rock band or something like that, but I'll try to find out the name. So I want to give it to you. So if you're looking for someone to go to this, go to this auto body shop here in San Diego. But when you talk to the guy, you could tell he just wants to be of service. He wants to serve the world. I need to get off this. Okay. The point I'm trying to make is, when you need other people to do that in your business, in your team, in your organization, you're going to have to persuade often, because most people aren't thinking in this direction. Okay. So you want to move people towards this idea of service. Okay. It's not just you. It's got to be other people as well. So let's talk about, this is from Harvard Business. It's the Harvard Business Review. It's by J.A. Conger. And at the very end, he signs it, or it's signed JC, which obviously I like that, right? Now, this is from all the way back in the 90s, but it still rings true today. So let's just read through a little bit of this, and we're going to look at different ways, excuse me, or what it takes to be able to persuade people, because you got to be able to do this. If you're going to be of service, you're going to have other people of service. If you're going to sell, if you're going to market, all this kind of stuff, putting your product, your service, whatever it is out to the world, it's going to mean there's got to be a lot of persuasion that you have to do as a leader. So let's talk about this. If there ever was a time for business people to learn the fine art of persuasion, it is now. Gone are, now watch this, this is important. Gone are the command and control days of executives managing by decree. Today, businesses are run largely by cross-functional teams of peers and populated by baby boomers and their Generation X offspring who show little tolerance for unquestioned authority. That's the deal, okay? And I believe I'm Gen X. I'm not baby boomer, but I was raised by baby boomers, right? So I think that's me, okay? So I just want to read this sentence one more time. Today's businesses are run largely by cross-functional teams of peers and populated by baby boomers and their Gen X offspring who show little tolerance for unquestioned authority. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. Myself, I would say that this includes, am I Gen X? I think I'm Gen X, right? Well, whatever it is, I'm the one who comes after the baby boomers, but I'll tell you this, I'm not like my dad. You know, my dad came from a day and age where his greatest motto in life was always this. He would always tell me, listen and do what you're told. Listen and do what you're told. Now, if you go into corporate America, in a lot of companies, that's pretty good advice. It's pretty solid advice. I can't stand that advice. I think I've run from that advice. And anybody who knows me knows that that's probably the worst advice to give me. But there's a lot of you that feel the same way. You're not going to work for an organization where they just come in and tell you what to do and you just do it and you do it blindly. That doesn't happen anymore. Okay. It goes on to say this: electronic communication and globalization have further eroded the traditional hierarchy as ideas and people flow more freely than ever around organizations and as decisions get made closer to the markets. I love that. Okay. Back when I was a kid, I remember every decision was made by those up top, at the top of the organization. And sometimes you'd have to wait 2, 3, 4. I mean, I grew up in a day where there wasn't email. Can you imagine? So I mean, you'd have the phone, but you didn't have it like you did today where people could pick up. So if someone's out of the office or on vacation, you might have to wait 2 or 3 weeks before you get the answer. Today, decisions are made closer to the market, which means the people who are working closest to the people in the market. That means that for a hotel, for instance, it's your front desk manager, it's your front desk worker, your employee who's going to be making some of those decisions that used to be made by the general manager of the hotel. Now it's the restaurant workers, it's the employees that you interface with every single day. They're making decisions, and they're not having to wait on the GM, right? To make decisions for them. Things are getting closer, right? Power is being distributed among people. It's much different today, okay? These fundamental changes, more than a decade in the making, but now firmly part of the economic landscape, essentially come down to this. Work today gets done in an environment where people don't just ask, what should I do? They ask, why should I do it? That's important. And yet leaders everywhere fail to get this. I just did a training up at Park Hyatt, at one of the Park Hyatts up in Colorado. One of the this Park Hyatt is actually rated as one of the top Park Hyatts in the world. It is beautiful. It's amazing. And their staff is incredible. The problem with the leadership, and they're actually really good people, but the problem that they struggled with is that they're get it done kind of people, right? You know, those kind of people, they just get it done. But they have people working for them that don't work the same way. And then a lot of these people come from different countries. They come from all over the world. And it's different to lead in Kuwait. It's different to lead in China. It's different to lead in Japan. It's different to lead in India. You come to here, the United States of America, and you've got to pander to the employees. It's how it works. What I'm talking about is not necessarily global, but it's definitely here in the United States of America, much more of a flat organization, right? And people are asking, well, I don't care. Like, it's not what should I do, boss? It's why do I have to do that, right? Why is it important? So great leaders learn how to explain that. And this new generation today, for better, for worse, And I think it's a pretty good thing. This new generation coming to the workplace today, everything they do, they want to be, they want it to be about purpose. And so if they're valeting your car at the hotel, they want to know, how is this making the world a better place? And you know what? Between you and me, it may not be making the world a better place, but you've got to learn how to communicate to them that it is. And I'll actually back up and I'll say, you know what? I think any job can make the world a better place. Just today, again, I'm talking to an auto body mechanic. And now I've got a new guy that I'm going to be going to the rest of my life. He earned my trust. He's earned a lot of people's trust, not just mine, all over San Diego. People trust this guy. And you could tell talking to him, he's just a no BS kind of guy. He just, he's not trying to sell you. He's not, he's just there to get the job done. That's what he's trying to do. And that's what we need. He's of service. Okay. I'm getting way off the mark here. I'm getting excited about this guy with the Autobot. Okay, so let's just talk about how do we effectively persuade people. Okay, all of that is going to be important as we think about what it means to what it means to persuade people to get the job done, the job that we need them to get done. So here's number one. The first thing we have to do is this. We've got to establish credibility. That's important. So again, going back to the example of the guy that I talked to today, he already had a credibility with me because I got on Yelp and he's one of the top ones, if not the top one in San Diego, and his reviews are off the charts. Automatically instant credibility. Here's what the article says. The first hurdle persuaders must overcome is their own credibility. A persuader can't advocate a new or contrarian position without having people wonder, can we trust this individual's perspectives and opinions? Such a reaction is understandable. After all, allowing oneself to be persuaded is risky because any new initiative demands a commitment of time and resources. Yet even those persuaders must have high credibility. Our research strongly suggests that most managers overestimate their own credibility considerably. That's the deal. I saw there's a statistic out there, and if I had the slide, I'd put up right now, but I'll just share this with you. Most managers, and the number is 74% of managers, when asked the question, am I doing a good job? Am I leading well? 74% of managers say, yes, I'm doing extremely well. Now, when you ask that same question of the people that are following them, what do you think that number is? 44%. 44%. So you've got 74% of managers saying, I'm doing a great job. Only 44% of their people are saying it. So there's a disconnect there, right? And so that idea of credibility is really big. But if we're not careful as leaders, we overestimate how credible we are. We overestimate how credible our people think we are. And here's what the article goes on to state, in the workplace, credibility grows out of two sources. Here we go. Expertise and relationships. Expertise and relationships. Going back to the auto body guy, he had both, right? Clearly he had the expertise. And number two, he had the relationships. And by that, I mean, I'm building a relationship with Yelp. I've had a relationship with Yelp for years. I trust it. I trust the people on there. I don't know them, but this is the world we live in. Again, much flatter, right? The power rests within the people now. Back when I grew up, you didn't have reviews. You just had to go with word of mouth. But today, those reviews are incredibly important. And this guy had it in spades. He had the expertise. I don't know he did, but based on the relationships and the people that he's worked with before through Yelp, I'm able to know he's got both of those, right? So that's credibility. People are considered to have high levels of expertise if they have a history of sound judgment or have proven themselves knowledgeable and well-informed about their proposals. I need to move on to the next point, but here's one of the things that I want to talk about with this idea of credibility. This is really important. Credibility takes time, okay? Credibility takes time. I worry about young workers that come into the organization and they're trying to make changes in the first, they're trying to persuade people in their first 6 months. And really people are like, who are you? I don't know you. I've never built a relationship with you. You've got to understand credibility takes time. And this is one reason why I tell people, hey, stick around for an organization, find an organization you like and stick around and realize every organization is going to have issues. But you also got to understand that it may take you a while before you can speak about those issues or you can provide a solution to those issues because you don't have credibility. You can't persuade anybody of anything without credibility. And typically credibility takes those two things. You've got to be great at your job and you've got to have great relationships, but not just one or two times over a period of time. That's where trust is built. People can look and say, I've seen this person work time and time again. They do incredibly good work. I can trust them. Okay, so that takes time. If you're going to persuade people, you've got to establish credibility two ways in the workplace, through your expertise, right? Let me make sure that's the right word. Your expertise. Yes, your expertise and your relationship. So number two is this. After that, after you've done the first thing, you've established credibility. Number two, you've got to frame for common ground. Frame for common ground. Here's what this means. Even if your credibility is high, your position must still appeal strongly to the people that you're trying to persuade. After all, a few people will jump on board a train that will bring them to ruin or even mild discomfort. Effective persuaders must be adept at describing their positions in terms that illuminate their advantages. Okay. If you're a parent, and they give a great example here, the fastest way, you know this, okay, if you're a mom or a dad out there, the fastest way to get a child to come willingly on a trip to the grocery store is to point out that there are lollipops by the cash register. It's not deception. It's just a persuasive way of framing the benefits of taking such a journey. Okay. In work situations, persuasive framing is obviously more complex, but the underlying principle is the same. It is a process of identifying shared benefits. That's the key right there, shared benefits. Okay. Just today, I had to stop by the store real quick before I head out to Mission Bay, and I had my daughter with me. And so I needed to stop by the store, and she needed to come in. It was too hot for her to stay in the car. I'm not going to leave the car running. We live in Southern California, right? And she didn't want to come. She's not feeling too well today. And so I had to remind her, like, she loves Gatorade, right? So I had to remind her, hey, there's Gatorade, as we get close to the checkout. I said, oh, okay, all right. That was a way of persuading her, but it made it in her benefit. Again, you got to understand this. This is one of the key points in being of service to other people, of service to the marketplace, whatever it is. We've talked about this before, I believe. I mean, I'm doing these podcasts all the time, so I think I've talked about this in this class. If not, then I'm going to share it with you today. With them and with it. With them and with it. WIIFM, WIIFT. What's in it for me? People are always talking. They're always thinking about 100% of the time. People are consistently thinking, what's in it for me? Okay. And you've got to understand that as a leader, you have to understand it. You got to embrace it, especially this new generation coming out. And it's not about arguing again. It's not about trying to change that about them. It's just how human nature is wired. What's in it for me? And honestly, we bring this, this new generation coming in. We talk about them a lot, but the reality is we all think that way. I don't care if you're a baby boomer. I don't care if you're in your Gen X, like I am, your millennial, your Gen Y, whatever it is. Everybody's consistently at every minute of every day thinking about what is in this for me. It's just how human nature is wired. So as leaders, we have to be, that's with them. We have to think with it, what's in it for them. Okay. So if you're trying to persuade people, giving facts and data, and we're going to talk about this here in just a second, but just telling them why this is important, it's not going to work. You've got to always connect it to them. How does this benefit you? If there's a new service that you're trying to introduce at your company or a new product you're trying to introduce, the first person you have to sell, right, are the people making the product, the people who are going to go out and sell the product, the people who are on the front lines of the product. You got to sell them on it, right? Why is this going to be important to you? I waited tables years ago, and I had a great boss, and I remember he would talk about, like, chicken wings or something, or a new kind of alcohol that came out, or a new blend of alcohols or whatever. And I remember he was so good at selling all of us on that thing first. So we would then go out, and he knew what he was doing. So that we would then go out and sell other people on it. But we had to be persuaded first. But he found common ground. And what he would do is say, hey, because he knew he had a competition, he had certain numbers to hit. So he would make it good for us. If we hit our numbers tonight on these new chicken wings or whatever it is, whoever gets the number, whoever hits this, sells this much, you're going to make an extra $100 tonight. I don't know what it was. It was a prize of some sort. And, we were all young bucks. I was back in my 20s when I was doing that, and $100 is a lot, or whatever the benefit was a lot. So he understood, I have to persuade these people to sell more of these wings, but I got to make it good for them before they'll make it good for the customer. And then if we're great at serving, we go out and we talk to the customers about, hey, I know you like chicken wings. These wings right here, they're incredible, right? And you start by asking them questions. So what are you looking for? You want some wings? Do you like that sweet buttery taste or whatever? Oh, okay, you like that? We've got something for me. And I'm trying to tell you right now, these are incredible. They're great. You're going to want to try these, right? It's always about putting it out there for them. Okay. So I spent a little time on that one because that's really important. You've got to understand it's putting the other person first, and it's finding that common ground, right? That common ground. Now, number 3 is this: providing evidence. Okay. So now we have, we've done the first 2 steps. Now we get to the 3rd step. We've got to provide the evidence. It's not just enough to just charm people. Okay. And here's what the article says: with credibility established and a common frame identified, persuasion becomes a matter of presenting evidence. Ordinary evidence, however, won't do. We found that the most effective persuaders use language in a particular way. They supplement, watch this, numerical data with examples, stories, metaphors, and analogies to make their positions come alive. You know who does this extremely well? And if you're on the call today and you go to any kind of a church, then you probably know this. And I'm specifically thinking of evangelical church because that's kind of what I've been associated with most of my life. The church does this extremely well. Okay. Maybe they've got a program, or if they've got something that they're trying to get you to do, sign up for, they want you to give more money, whatever. How do they do it? They put up a story. They show a 2 to 3 minute story, just a quick one. It can't be too long, right? Because you lose people's attention. And let's say they're saying, they want a bunch of people to sign up and come to their marriage seminar. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. And so what they'll do is they'll get a whole bunch of people who've been there, or maybe 2 or 3 different couples who've gone before, and they'll get up there and they say, before we went to the seminar, our marriage was in the toilet and we were getting ready to get a divorce. And then we went to the seminar. Now we have the greatest marriage in the world, right? And our kids are better and we're better. And then you hear that 2 or 3 times. So everyone out there who they want to come, their target market, which are married couples, they're looking there saying, you know what? Our marriage isn't doing very good. We wanted to see it there. Okay, we'll go, right? So they didn't get up there and just relate data and say, well, the statistics show for people who come to this, this retreat this weekend, 56.7% of couples, they don't do that. Now you can present data, that's good, but you've always got to add a story. Anytime you're going to persuade, bring in a story. And again, make it attached to the person, with them, with it, what's in it for them. They're always thinking about what's in it for them, right? So if you're going to be of service, that's what this class is about. You've got to be able to persuade, but you've got to understand that people are thinking about themselves. So you provide evidence, but you provide it through a story that relates to the people that you're trying to reach. Okay. And again, there's a lot of great examples about there. That's, this is what commercials do. Great commercials. Nike is phenomenal about doing it. I'm trying to think about other ones. I don't know. You remember a few years ago, it was the who's in the arms of the angel, fly away from you remember that one? It was who was the singer? Oh, she was a famous singer at the time. You know what I'm talking about. But it was the animals, it was the dogs, and every time that would come on, you would see these puppies and you hear that singer singing in the background, and you wanted to go out and you wanted to help. What were they doing? It's what commercials do. They're telling a story. Right? They're showing you these sad dogs, and it's pulling out. And that leads us into our 4th one, our 4th and final one. If you're going to persuade, you have to connect emotionally. No commercial did it better than the one that I just mentioned, right? You have to connect emotionally. In the business world, here's what the article says. In the business world, we like to think that our colleagues use reason to make their decisions. Yet if we scratch below the surface, we will always find emotions at play. Good persuaders are aware of the primacy of emotions and are responsive to them in 2 important ways. First, they show their own emotional commitment to the position they are advocating. Such expression is a delicate matter. If you act, watch this though, if you act too emotional, people may doubt your clear-headedness, right? You get up there, you start crying, you're bawling your eyes out. People, I can't trust this person. What this person needs is therapy, right? And there's nothing wrong with therapy. I want to make that clear. But we're also not, we're not supposed to use our business meetings for therapy either, right? We're of service. That means we're thinking about the other people, so we're not thinking about ourselves. So you don't act too emotional. But you also must show that your commitment to a goal is not just in your mind, but it's in your heart and gut as well. Without this demonstration of feeling, people may wonder if you actually believe in the position that you are championing. Okay, so it's all about connecting emotionally. Final paragraph I want to read here is the concept of persuasion, like that of power, often confuses and even mystifies business people. It is so complex and so dangerous when mishandled. That's why a lot of people don't like to talk about persuasion. They feel like it's a manipulation tactic. It's not. It's understanding that we've got to move people towards a shared common goal, and we do that through persuasion. Okay, but because people think about that, they would rather just avoid it altogether. But like power, persuasion can be a force for enormous good in an organization. Try to say it 10 times fast. It can pull people together, move ideas forward, galvanize change, and forge constructive solutions. To do all that, however, people must understand people must understand persuasion for what it is, not convincing and selling, but learning and negotiating. Furthermore, it must be seen as an art form that requires commitment and practice, especially as today's business contingencies make persuasion more necessary than ever before. Okay, so there you go. Now we come to our questions. Okay, so obviously you know that I'm going to say this. First of all, I'm going to ask the question. Number one, just list off the 4 steps, stages, whatever you want to say. List off the 4 steps, the 4 stages of persuasion. Okay, I want you to list those out. And then as we go back and we think about, I think it was stage number 2, we talked about this idea of with them and with it. WIIFM, excuse me. WIIFT. What do those stand for? What do those mean? And why are those important to persuasion? Okay. And I think there was something else that I wanted to make sure that we got. Oh, yes. All the way back to step number 1. It talked about in there. Okay. Credibility grows out of 2 different sources. Okay. So I'm kind of giving you your first answer there, right? But the first step that I gave you, okay, it says that happens. Credibility happens out of 2 sources. What are they? I listed them in there. Okay. So again, list off all 4 of the, and just give me a sentence. Okay. Here's number 1. Here's number 2. Here's number 3. Here's number 4, or just list what they are. Right. List off the 4 different ways. And then again, I want you to go back. And in number 2, we talked about this idea of with them and with it. What do those 2 things mean? Okay. Why are they important to persuasion? And then I want you to go back and in the first step, okay, there are 2 different ways to establish credibility. And we read about those, and I want you to share those with me. Okay. And then I just want you to round all that out and say, and I want you to tell me, okay, based on this or based on your opinion, whatever it is, why is persuasion so important to leadership? Okay. So those are all the questions. I look forward to reading your responses. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Stay cool out there, everybody. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.